18. Okay, 18. So we want to start with looking at the success and reminding y'all, because that's one thing that I don't think I do enough with y'all. So we were at 91% average overall. So that's definitely good. And I want to know, like, just quickly share out, what do you all think contributed to that success? Because being a 91 is high. What do y'all think it was?
For my class in particular, I've been doing this kind of like opening review question. So I've been doing some like opening review questions in practice, and then I had some kind of like hands-on game for more and less. So I feel like the hands-on game helped.
Okay. Was that the rowing?
Yes.
Yes. That was good. Any other ideas of what contributed to this? What were you doing as a teacher? What were the teacher moves?
I think like for mine, I had my key points like super duper clear, so that when they got to the exit ticket, I had my exemplar, I knew exactly what I was looking for, and that was what like really helped with the success.
I know that this is one that we went over in content team, and we had talked about giving them, like, before they did the problem set, they did the homework, so they had multiple at-bats with that, and then I also integrated my lesson, like, at-bats that were whole group, and we were doing, like, were there enough houses for the little pigs to hide from the big bad wolf, and it was, like, really engaging, and the kids, like, really bought into that, so that was fun.
Cool. I was not there.
I remember that.
My lovely code.
And shout out to you.
Yeah.
Shout out to you for that.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think contributed to that?
Their successes?
Yes.
I think giving them like launching with like what we've done in the past and then connecting it to what we were doing today, making sure they were understanding that's something that they've done before, but like also giving them like open-ended questions and like using the vocabulary with like if there was enough.
Right. Okay. And the good thing is that like the success that you all are naming is the success that we were able to see during the walkthrough. So that was a good thing. Like, so it's not like we're on different pages like, actually that wasn't that good. But no, like that it was actually good. So if you look at your know and do statements, we don't have to write them on the board, because the beautiful thing is you all are on the same page. They were the same. So looking at our know and do statements, just quickly, a quick review, about 30 seconds, quickly review them so we can keep going. This is good. It was still recording.
Okay.
So let's look at, you should have Ivana. You should have hers. So we're going to look at this as the exemplar. And based off the know and do statements that we've already looked at, is there anything that we need to add to the know or do statements based off of what we see with her? Besides being a great artist, because I was like, okay.
Those leaves.
I see the little leaves.
Possibly adding, like, students need to be able to create a set.
Okay.
That is, like, more or less, because it just says, like, match, explain, recognize 2 sets. But we didn't include, like, being able to produce a set that is either more or less.
Okay. Can we ask them right there?
I got it.
Thank you.
Produce the set that is more or less.
Mm-hmm.
If you have anything, that might be something you want to add.
It doesn't really say anything about like what to match. Like, you know, so the biggest misconception I had was like they were matching the same thing, but in this the do, it doesn't say anything about matching like what to match. You know what I mean? Like we're matching opposite things.
Yeah.
So instead of like matching 2 scarves, they need to know they're matching a scarf.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, you can say that matching to correspondence to compare
Okay.
And it says in each set.
one
using
group with
one
another.
Okay.
Okay, so what is the?
But that was my biggest misconception too, was they just match scarf to scarf.
This is why I love y'all. Y'all jumping there too fast though.
Sorry.
But what was the little adjustment that you just said, Lurch, to make to the matching what?
Match objects to compare one to another.
Oh yeah. What is it?
I mean, it's
It's still
It's
essentially
essentially
pretty
what
much
it
the same
is.
thing, but I guess we can get
Clearer.
granular with it.
yeah,
What is it?
match objects to compare the amount of one set to another, or one group to another.
Match objects to compare the amount
of one group.
of one group to another.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, so look at, so the misconceptions were pretty much the same in that, with all the examples that we had. But if you look at, I want you to look at your D3s, the D3s, and tell me what you noticed was similar between number 2 and number 3. Essentially, what was it?
Was the one matching?
Right. So matching, and that's exactly where I was with it. Now, when we think about matching, I think that's more of a procedural thing. So, like, what is the thinking that kids need to have around matching? So, if you could just quickly take about 1 minute, just turn and talk. So, think about what is the thinking that students need around matching, and what should we hear them say as they're matching.
So specifically in our class, the two that struggled with it was Devin and Skylar, and it was only one of the objects, and what they were was matching.
Yeah.
Scarf to a hat and a scarf are the same.
Right.
Yeah, so it's already matched, it's done. Right, so for them, it was like the idea of that, like 1-to-1 matching, like each set can only have one match in it, like one object for each set. You can't have 2 scarves matched.
Right. So the opposite thing. I think different. I don't know if we.
Yeah, the Skylar is just scatterbrained.
And match each object.
One partner.
That can be something there because
So
it's
that
not
every
Yeah.
lesson has a different.
like these are 2 different groups.
Right, well, that kind of like,
Two
yeah,
different
match
groups.
You know,
Right.
object one to object two. So two
The
different
whole
kinds
point
of
of matching is it? So
Like what she
I would throw out the word
like,
matching.
I've already matched this
But it's
hat,
not
let me
really
see if there's another hat that doesn't match.
It's not matching.
No, it's
Right, so if she's like drawing to this
Right,
picture,
it's
like
like pairing.
Pairing.
Pairing things because it's not matching.
That's a good word.
So I think we should change color core entirely.
And
Home state.
All right.
Let's get on the road, guys.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, all right. So let's share. I think we pretty much got it. But what is the thinking that we need, that the students need, and what sort of things should we hear them say?
We talked about, like, in our class, what we've been doing, like, for the matching, trying to help them understand the correspondence is that every object needs one matching partner. So they understand, like, if it's a ball and a bat, your ball only needs one bat. So, like, each one should have a partner. And so the thinking behind it is that once they're able to, like, verbally explain, they should be able to say, like, you know, oh, there are more bats than there are balls because these balls have a partner, have one partner. These do not have a partner, so they don't have a match. My kids understand, like, the partner aspect of it, and we try and, like, also connected to like, oh, just like when we're walking in a line, you have a partner walking next to you. Or like if you have peanut butter, its partner is jelly, right? So you need them to have a partner.
Okay.
Our misconception was we had 2 scholars that matched like multiple scarves to one hat. So they ended up only having 1 scarf left over. So what I was saying was that like we should hear them saying like, oh, that already has a match. Let me see if there's one that doesn't have a match. And when it doesn't have a match, they need to understand that it's left over.
So that group has more.
Okay. Anything else?
We wanted to emphasize, like, because we had, like, friends that matched a scarf to a scarf, a hat to a hat, but, you know, always matched 1-to-1. So we wanted to change the verbiage of match to pair
Okay.
it with a different partner.
And okay, so quickly again, go from match to pair, right?
Pair each object to one different object or something
Okay,
along
so
those lines.
I guess explain that to me because I've heard y'all saying it. I'm like, okay, but I wasn't all the way there yet. So explain it to me so I can get this.
So in my mind, like, my kid, he matched scarf to scarf, hat to hat, so like he was matching, because like they're a match. A scarf and a scarf, they look the same, they're completely the same, so they match. So I feel like his misconception was like not the 1-to-1 really, but like knowing that we are seeing if there's enough of this object to match with another different object.
You took it literally, like
Right,
Yeah.
we literally
matching
took
all
Like when
the
you
colors.
imagine, like when you
Like
imagine
a
socks.
socks.
Yeah, like when we did that.
Right.
earlier.
Yeah, so like he's probably left over from that, like,
Just
I am
kidding.
matching.
Something fell in your closet. It sounded like a bag of fake
which
eggs.
the
Right.
like the language of the
Probably
standard says like matching an object to compare with another, right? So just like emphasizing the language of like it's another group, it's a different group, so matching this group with a different group.
Right. Okay. I'm with it. Now I'm on board. So that language is a good segue because thinking about the observations and looking at the misconception as being matching, it was clear that everyone was getting like this object is more than that object. But it was almost grazed over the missing the same or the matching piece. So making sure that we hone in on like these statements of the same. And I think making sure kids get to those statements. So when we're thinking about doing a reteach, like what do you all think from this should be the focus of the reteach? Based off the misconceptions and
Be the pairing, right? Like pairing objects together that are opposite, not the ones that are the same.
right. So thinking about the pairing and those statements, making sure that we hone in on those statements. So do we want to do a model or a guided discourse? Which one would be more fitting? You'll have to, I want you to take a second, talk with your partner, then we'll share out.
So it should be guided discourse because we were like everybody at 90%, right? And that's most students are struggling. But guided discourse is only some students or you're clearing something out.
Yeah.
So,
Guided
yeah, right.
I hear the consensus. What is it?
Guided discourse.
Guided discourse. And why? Why are we thinking that?
Because of what it's in parentheses.
Right. What is in there?
Only some students struggle, not
Right.
most.
Right. Okay. And also thinking about like the guided discourse is how we're really going to get to that thinking. If you're modeling, it's harder to get to that thinking, and then you still got to get to the discourse to get them to say it. So since our focus is definitely that thinking of the matching or pairing and the same, then we definitely need the guided discourse. So I gave you some examples here. So y'all see I was trying to be an artist, right?
Wow. I'm impressed.
Yeah. So thinking about these here, we can use them for our guided discourse, but like in guided discourse, you know how you put up the student example. So you're like, hey, Jack said that this was the same. I don't know if it was the same. So what I want to give you all about 3 minutes to sit. We need to figure out and do it as a group. What are the questions that we need to ask to get to that thinking next? The thinking that we discussed about one of this object and what they should be saying. So what are the questions that we need to ask the kids to make sure that we know what they're thinking, they're articulating?
You show the student to the presentation. Then you say, all right, look at this match. Like, what if the students?
Well, sometimes if I'm shooting someone and I just get like lift, I'll call them.
Okay. Are you here?
Because then they
Oh,
can
you
tell
try
you,
to
like, if they say something
Okay,
about
sorry.
like, oh, the blue one doesn't
I've
have a
never
match,
done
or
it.
the purple one doesn't have a match, they need to be able to, like, understand that it's more. So I would just say, like, does each shape have a match, and then let them go from there, like, oh, the blue doesn't, or the purple, or neither.
Are there any left over?
And how can this how can you make sure each other shows one partner? How do you know?
So you ask them why, like they matched that square.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the scarf? Why did you want to have a scarf? Because
Yeah.
the scarf didn't have any match, right? Does this group have more or less? How do you know?
Okay. Cool. Questions later? Right.
To make sure, like,
Well, we could.
So what
This is
question
what we
would you
talked about in the meeting. We were like,
To make
we don't
them
want them to just rely on our They also need to know, like, their requests and that goes into strategy.
is everybody
Some of them might not realize.
so it'd be like a partner thing, like,
Ricky is most times able to tell me, like, oh, this one needs to be strong. It's a number. He doesn't know which number to
Yeah.
use. So doesn't understand, like, the actual number. So you could push them to how many answers.
that's how. There's other examples.
What do you need? What do you need to make sure that you do when you're finding out something?
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's good.
It's too much.
Right. So I want to do a quick share out of some of the questions that you all had, and then we'll get into the quick practice, and then we're finished. But just kind of share out because I saw great questions on like each end individually, and I think it'll be powerful if we kind of share out, and then of course teachers still that's what we do. So take some questions.
Oh, mine was, I see you matched a scarf and a hat. Why did you decide to match this scarf to this hat?
So what I'm give
You
her
want me
the
to-
advice.
okay.
Give
So
her
my-
the advice that I gave you on that.
The advice given to me was that make sure the question is transferable, so instead of specifically naming an item, just call it like the object, because initially I had how many partners should each square, how many partners should each square have, but instead of saying square, I could just say how many partners should each object have. I could even say how many partners should it have.
That's what I wrote.
Yeah, she wrote blank, like, I see you matched blank
called
to
it.
blank. Yeah, she had it.
Okay. Any more good ones?
I asked, are you okay? That's fine. What do you need to make sure that you do whenever you're matching or finding out if there's enough?
Right. I like it.
Does each shape only have one partner?
Right, and that because we did see it
that
wasn't
was
like
what our misconception was.
Yeah,
that
like-
they were matching like two scarves.
yeah,
to
like
one
am I
hat.
just branch this off real quick, and then you can actually have that conversation with them. So for the next 5, and I'll rotate. We're going to with your
Lord, you can join our
Wow.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
poignant.
Jackie, join us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teacher's always my partner.
with your BTF, you're going to just practice using the examples that we have, teaching with your students and going through with the guided discourse.
So just like other ones.
Because I have to make sure.
Sorry, you
Okay, so I will talk to myself.
Because Alina's going to tell y'all which y'all.
You're the observer. And you tell us what you did good first. And then growth.
Alright, so
So our job
Let's take a look at this person.
if there's more of one shape or more of another.
Hold up, close your eyes. This is
So what we're gonna do is match up two different shapes that we see to make sure that each pair has one partner. So what two shapes do we see on this page?
What do
Very good. We see purple stars and we see orange squares. We're gonna draw a line from these stars to squares and match them up to make sure that each shape only has one
It should be a
partner.
different partner.
Yeah, she paired
It would be
each
great
different
if I
shape
have a twin,
together.
but I'd love
Now,
to step from this round.
how many,
So let's match up the
wait,
partner.
did you,
What can I do
how
to make
many
sure that each
did she
object
pair
has
them
a
with?
different partner?
How many objects did she
She
pair?
paired up the stars and the squares, just like we said.
5.
she was
So
gonna
she
do.
paired
Let's
up
look
5
and see,
objects.
does each shape
Object
only
have
have one partner?
or 2?
each object has the same amount.
Yes.
We have 5 of these.
Very good, so each shape only has one match. I bet this one over here doesn't have a
Okay.
match. Is there a star to draw this
So there's
line
another
to?
object
that looks like this.
Well, there's a star right here. Can we use that one? It already Oh, it already has a partner.
I'm
So we
trying to
have
get
one
the
shape
response
left
over
over.
how.
What shape's left
Okay,
over?
How many?
Go.
Oh,
What
one.
does that tell us
Sorry, one.
about
Yes.
the number of squares compared to the
She
number of
matches
stars?
one
There's
to each object.
Yes.
There's more squares because this here
Object
here
was
does
matched
not
with-
have
Okay.
our kiss your
Yes.
brain.
Yes. Good job. So were there any left over?
There were no left over.
So what does that mean?
That means that
Kiss your brain.
Needs a different partner.
Okay.
How many partners does it?
What do you need to make sure that you do?
So
Okay.
saying that it's not the same, like, so
You're
after
showing
she says it's
that.
more, like saying again that it's not the
match
same.
them up and see if there's no stragglers.
Okay.
Match up the object with the other object.
Another object.
But not the same object. With
Right.
different eyes.
Yes.
And then I'm looking at this, and if there's any stragglers, I know that the stragglers has
Like the set, so he's saying that since there's one left over, they know that it's not the same number of shapes. And like the sets have different ones.
Just
I like
So
it.
So if it's stragglers, you share the stragglers.
I get some questions.
Cool.
my brain.
Okay.
Right, so then when we get to the part where I like point out that like, oh, there's a square left alone. So, but the same number of stars,
You practice.
Okay.
so are there the same amount of stars?
No,
as
I
there
like
are
how
as-
you had them like, it was group effort, so it's not like pressure on
Doing the wrong way.
Which I
Oh.
feel like they did a lot of what that did it wrong.
Okay.
So like letting them do it.
Okay.
You were very
Everyone did.
Yeah,
And just focus from there.
right.
So then,
So kind of the same way that I was
That
like, yeah, draw it to this star, like after.
Right.
and then-
exactly.
That is good.
It's
That's a great job.
Right in that. Just like how you right in that
Okay, so like
a
is it
square and a
like,
star.
if we resign,
Why did you
yeah.
decide
Yeah,
to
and I
match
would
these
say,
chairs?
so check each
I
one.
try and keep
Because
Can we draw
Yeah,
just
so try and keep it
stars?
engaged.
each
No.
star needed a
Okay.
square.
So
You're right.
let's
So
think about
each
that.
star needs a square.
Like if we had
This
blocks
number
star,
of
a square
stars,
doesn't have a
like-
star.
Oh.
Can you please?
Could the
So,
number of
yeah,
squares
because
and the
tomorrow
number
they're
of
actually,
stars
this is
be
like
the
for the lesson
same?
tomorrow, they actually
No,
are.
this would be another color. So it's
Because then everyone would have a
This one
Oh,
has
everyone would have
one
one and we
star.
see that.
pennies.
Square
To
doesn't
make
have
sure
part.
there's a
Yeah.
So
they're
what does
actually
that
using
tell us
manipulatives
about the
that
amount
will
of
reduce
squares
that they're
compared to the
not
amount of
You know what?
stars?
I'm
So
gonna
like
turn it
tomorrow,
over and I'm gonna draw something else.
Wait, I have
want
a
you
new
that
one for
Oh,
you.
awesome.
For the amount of
Okay,
stars
this
compared to the
time,
amount of squares.
we're gonna
Here's
pair
that
up
stars.
each object
Okay.
to a different object. Okay, so let's do the first
Oh,
one.
each object to a different one.
You did it, kiss your brain. You match the square to the star. You match the square to the star. And you
Oh
match-
no, there's not another square, Mrs. Williams, Miss Miller.
There is not. So what
I mean,
does
a star.
that? What does that mean about this group of squares? What does that mean? Does you have more squares than stars, or do you have less? Because you got one straggler of a square.
I know she said that
I
earlier.
think I understand.
More.
More.
There's more squares than there are stars.
And how did you know there was more stars?
Because there were some left over and there was not enough stars for this square to have one.
Kiss your smart brain. And what did you have to do in order to figure all of this out?
I had to
Because tomorrow's lesson
pair
actually is where
and
they're
or
practicing
match
10 pennies.
each
So it's 5
star
pennies and
with a different object, which
And
would be
then-
the square.
Yes. And
By
then,
drawing a line.
yes. And then when you saw this homie was here with no partner, what did that
Beautiful
tell you?
line.
Huh?
Are you wasting the pen I stole from my church?
Oh, sorry. Lisa.
Okay. So,
I take them every week. I stole them.
So kiss your smart brain. That's very great conversation.
Did every person do it?
Side note, I told my friend that this weekend. I was like, kiss your brain.
Oh,
Kiss my brain. And you know, I was against a lot of little cute stuff. I was like, I'm kissing brains. But, so just a few things I want to make sure that we get to. So, one thing to point out in the guided discourse is kind of positioning the beginning of it as the students are the experts. Like, we're a little confused right now. A student said this about the work, so that way they know, like, we're looking for them to actually talk and the weight is on them. And also making sure that we're having that conversation about the items being the same. Just because that was one of the, when it comes to matching, the thinking that we need to make sure that we got to. So now that we have that final question, when is a good time for us to do this? When would be a good time to incorporate this?
Tomorrow's lesson
Tomorrow's lesson?
is about, are there enough matching, seeing if there's more of this or less of that, so you can intertwine it in your think aloud tomorrow.
you could do it as part of like the launch or the opening to support them with what they're going to be doing. Because it's 5 pennies and 10 cubes, and you're supposed to put them away to see if each right here has a match.
You got a plan? And how long did I hold y'all? I hold y'all 1
Thank you
minute
for
over.
providing the
These are
artwork.
One tomorrow over.
Oh, do y'all need more of those?
Wow.
I have clean copies. Did I spell it incorrectly?
Oh, no. Are the more green or purple?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's just old English.
Right. RD.
Oh, well, I got everybody. So grade level meeting Friday. Can we
Blair,
use
can
part of it to decorate our tree? Because I think the objects mostly came in. I'm still trying to figure out, like, I need to know where we can put this because shouting no disruption of our tree.
Oh, wait.
Right.